Look for the silver lining whenever a cloud appears in the blue.
Our next guest is Tanul Mishra. From co-founding Eatilish to leading Afthonia Lab, Tanul has been a trailblazer in India's startup ecosystem. With over 2 decades of experience spanning media, telecom, and fintech, she now dedicates her efforts to nurturing early-stage fintech startups, helping them navigate the complexities of Indian financial industry. So first of all, thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me over.
Wonderful. So why Millennium Diva?
I think it's one initiative which has been focused on at least putting the spotlight on women, repeatedly addressing issues that need to be spoken about, right? So in a forum, sometimes what happens is you might not get immediate actionables, but it's very necessary to keep pointing out issues so that, they're not lost. It's also had this ability to bring people from the industry together in a platform spread over a day where people can interact in a very safe environment and have conversations which sort of help you grow and evolve then.
So you are an accelerator. You're also a VC.
Yes.
If I can call you, are you?
Yeah, we're not directly investing, but we have a pool of mentors and we work with investors who then end up funding businesses that are incubated
I
with us.
have a question for you. What are some of the subtle biases you have witnessed in funding conversations that many founders miss?
So there is, I think sometimes people themselves are not aware of the subtle biases that sort of come in. But from an investor perspective, right, it's about betting on something which is completely unknown. So a lot of times investors are looking for validation. And which is fair because when you're going to put in so much of money, you want some sort of validation coming through. But a lot of times the ideas are way ahead of the curve.
Okay.
And the reason the VC space started in the first place was to back ideas which did not have a sort of ground model, right? It was supposed to be disruptive in nature. It was supposed to be backing ideas which were disruptive in natures. So I think that sometimes without realizing that comes in a lot of focus where we try and focus on anecdotal evidence or our own personal experiences and look at extrapolating that on the idea and saying, will it work or not work? And I think sometimes that's a bias, individual bias that can come into investing or incubating space.
Do you think investors are biased by risk perception or by narrative styles that differ between genders?
I would say this was true a couple of years ago. I have seen that changing. I have seen a lot more investors betting on the idea rather than the founder. I think that's also a representation of the fact that you have a lot more women investors on the table, which has helped neutralize any perception biases that could come in. So yes, it's still in existence, but not as much as I would think. And I think the numbers would also put some testament to that if we were to dig into it.
Okay, I'll have another lead-up question to that. Is the issue only with who's pitching or also with who's listening? And how can investors check their own bias?
I think it's a two-way street, right? A lot of times, so when I walk into this room, you're going by my confidence, you're going by my conviction in the idea, and obviously I'm going to be worried, I'm going to be scared of failure if I'm starting as a founder. But I think sometimes women tend to short sell themselves, tend to focus a lot more on justifying rather than, actually just focusing on saying what they're doing, right? So I think the confidence with which you talk about your idea to people, the confidence with which you back what you're doing, and that conviction needs to come from the founder. I think sometimes women, because have been conditioned to stay in the background historically, do not ask. There's a very famous sort of conversation that happened. And I'm forgetting, I think it was Linda Babcock, if I'm not wrong. She's a professor of behavioral economics at Carnegie Mellon. And Linda Babcock was heading a teaching program there, and she had a bunch of female students who walked up to her and said that the principal has given the teaching assignments to the male students and we haven't got anything. And so she took that matter to the principal, and he said, it's because the boys asked me for it, none of the female students didn't. It was as basic as saying, you did not ask me. So she ran an experiment and she put women and men in a classroom. And she said, for every question that you answer, you will get between $1 to $5. When the assignment was complete and it was an open question answer session, she told the women, you will get $1, and they said, okay. And she told the men, you'll get $2, and they said, why not $5? Right? So we have been so deeply conditioned to not ask for what we think is rightly ours. So I think sometimes you can short sell yourself. And I think that if you're a woman founder, then that's a bias that you should be aware of so that you're not shortchanging and you're more confident. It doesn't mean that you lack objectivity and, go in and sort of just go the other extreme, but at least, know what the worth of the idea is and what you're selling and what your worth is in that point in time. As far as, investors are concerned, I think a mindset shift takes time. And the minute you put, it's like saying, if I tell you not to think of a bear, you're only going to think of a bear, right? So telling an investor to say, don't think she's a female founder is really going to backfire.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that while we wait for mindsets to change in general, the onus is always on the person selling, right?
Right. True.
So I would say that it's time for founders and female founders to sort of not look at the bias in the room, but to focus on what you're doing and what you can control.
So true. I remember my mentor in the US telling me that back in the 50s and 60s in the US, when there was very clear stock biases happening, when someone would apply for a job, they would just put S,
yeah.
something. So
Yeah.
you just pass through the initial.
Yeah.
I think we've come, and I personally feel, I know you can correct me, but I feel that the glass ceiling is yet to be broken in the West as much as it's been broken here.
Of
I
course,
feel so that.
but also I think look at India, right? I mean, I know that startup today is a really glamorous thing, but it's my favorite example. Lijjat Papad, what was it? A startup,
Yes.
right? It's been a women-led cooperative housing societies, women-led self-help groups have long been a part of this system.
Yeah. In
right?
fact, when people talk about sustainability, I think our civilization, our culture has been
We've been
sustainable the
recycling.
longest
Yeah,
time.
we've been recycling for the longest.
Yes.
So I think I think we just need to shift our lens a little more and look at these things again. And obviously, depending on the sector you move in, depending on the things, biases change. But Indian banking system has had the most female leaders.
Absolutely.
Think about it, right? I'm not saying biases don't exist. I'm not saying gender issues are not there. Glass ceiling is there. There are cracks in the glass ceiling. Things have to be fixed. But we need to look at the victories and we need to keep pushing, right?
Yeah. You spoke about lens. What role do you think data transparency and gender lens investing play in reshaping decision-making structures?
So I love data because, you can get any answer out of it depending on any way that you look at it, right?
You love maths?
I love maths. There's a beautiful book called Weapons of Math Destruction, which talks about how data, if you feed it the same thing, can keep increasing those biases, right? So I was just sitting on the panel there when Amit now spoke about how his portfolio has almost, in the 10 investments that they've made, 5 of them are in companies where you have women co-founders and the other are with, non-women co-founded companies. I don't think he sat down and did that math, right? Because they were looking at just backing an idea at that point in time. There is data that shows that women-led companies do better, and I think it's just because we're cautious. We focus on growth. We have so much to prove that we're constantly working around that, right?
When you say women-led companies or women-led women founders, means they are in the day-to-day operations, right?
Yes,
They're
of
driving
course,
the
of
company.
course, of
Because otherwise,
course.
that number. I was having this conversation with my mom the other day, and she said, she overheard our neighbor. He was starting a business after
And he
working.
just put his wife's name?
And he said they are 50-50 co-founders or whatever. And she says, because I told her that I'm going for this conference today, and she said something which just stunned me because she always gives me these ideas. She said half of the women-led organization maybe just because they are there as a name.
So we honestly do not encourage that practice. So for us, if you are a part of our portfolio, you need to have a active woman co-founder.
Because if you're only going to judge that based on how many women, in terms of only numbers, I think we might probably have a lot more numbers. by
No,
now.
but if you look at generally in terms of data where women have actively found, look at Huda Cosmetics.
Huh.
It's a woman-led company,
Correct.
right? Look at Salt, Shinjini.
Mhm.
Again, women-led, right? So, I mean, there is stories, there is numbers that will back this adequately, saying yes, women-led companies do better or are more successful.
Huh.
And I think it's not because there is a difference in caliber. I'm sure there is, individually there could be different. It's just that when opportunities come, and because we see them coming to us in fewer number at times, the diligence to make that successful, to prove yourself, is so much more, the onus is so much more, that you just do things, even stronger and better.
What do you wish you knew about bias and capital when you were starting out?
Actually, nothing, honestly, because my hero is my dad.
Mhm.
I grew up, he brought me up with the thought that you achieve what you want to achieve because of the person that you are, because of your intelligence, because of your knowledge, and because of the application of that knowledge. And he also taught me very early on that people are going to have a problem with your gender. And if they do, that's their problem and not your problem. So when I walk into a room, if you have a problem with my gender, it's your problem, not mine. So I don't really,
Can you share with us something about what your accelerator and your incubating does?
Yeah, so basically we work with fintech startups or techfin startups. So basically, if you are a startup which is focusing on innovation in the financial space, then we are the folks you speak with. We do a rolling cohort, which means we incubate through the year. To eliminate individual bias, I have a panel of mentors and advisors who get into the shortlisting process. And we focus on basically, if you come to us all the way from idea stage or MVP stage, we help you with everything from access to market growth, access to funds, so it's the whole journey. We have 30 plus fintech startups with us. We also ran a incubation program for global startups who were looking to look at India as a market for expansion.
Interesting.
Uh,
And these are fintech startups. It's not women-led fintech or something.
No, but we have, so out of the 30 plus, we have at least 4 startups which are co-founded and led by women. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure if you met
But you
one
didn't
of them.
go out to, you didn't go and seek out just women startups. It was fintech startups.
It was just fintech startups. And
Yes.
if you had a great idea with a good team and the execution, we backed you. So there is Fun Grow. I don't know if you met them here.
Yeah,
Payal Jain, yeah.
Yeah, she waited,
Yeah.
not a part of the podcast.
Yeah, you can. So Payal is our portfolio startup. She came to us when they were at idea stage. So it's been a joy and pride to watch her be where she is, including winning Shark Tank and now running a profitable startup, right?
Can I just somehow manage to get her?
Sure,
to
we'll
talk
connect
to her?
you. Yeah. Just reach out.
because
I'll
I
get
felt
you set
so
up.
bad.
No,
They
no,
said
I'll
that
set
she
you.
was
And
waiting outside and
she
she
is
left.
fantastic with how to grow a business with using minimum capital and marketing
I think that's
intelligently.
something which I've learned from my sisters, moms, grandmothers, everyone, like how they manage it. It all
Budgets.
budgets,
We're
right?
great with budgets. Yeah, we're great with
Even
numbers.
now, I know that there are some kept in the rice ka thing.
Yeah.
She still does it. I mean,
Yeah, so Payal is one of our portfolio, startups that I'm
and that
very.
just happened because you found the business model interesting.
Yes, we found, and see, when they come to us, we're usually backing the founder and rather than the idea.
Sure.
Because when you come to us, you're coming to us with an idea which is very, very early stage and zero traction, and you're way ahead of the curve most of the times because we're not looking at Me Too ideas, which means I'm honestly betting on the founder, whether it's a male or a female, to be able to execute and scale this, right? So for us, it is about backing the founder and the idea both, and both have to sort of gel together, and which is where we look at somebody like that, right? We have a startup which is based out of a really tiny town in Kerala, which is again co-founded by a woman. She's actively running it, and the town is Ettamanur. You know how tiny it is in Kerala, and she's focusing on digitizing retail solutions.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
So you're talking about.
So how does one reach you if somebody has an idea? Is it a way to the process?
Sure, you can find us on our website, which is www.afthonialab.com. You can write to us at program@afthonialab.com. You can find us on LinkedIn. We're very, very responsive and active.
And what are the prerequisites for them to?
Send us a short note on what you're doing and why you're the right person to be doing it. and then we pick it up from there.
Do you have a process of a shortlisting process?
Yes, we have
which you want to share?
We have a very intensive process for shortlisting. So when you send us an idea and a thought process, the team has a conversation. And then I jump into the fray. And if both these, it looks like we're going to be able to do this together and we see the value that we will be adding to you, then you get exposed to our mentor panel. And our mentors are global. So these are founders, consultancies from the big four consultancies, corporates both from India, US, UK, Cambodia. And depending on the area that you're in,
They all work virtually.
yes, it's hybrid. So, we then set up conversations. So say that you're, insurtech startup, for example, and you come to us. We will get you to speak to an insurance mentor who's from India and also an insurance mentor who's global, because it helps us understand whether your startup can actually grow in both markets. And say insurance in US and insurtech in US is far more developed than it is in India. So it helps us accelerate that growth process from the learnings there, right? Then we connect you with the tech mentor to understand, are you using tech efficiently? Can it be done differently? And then, of course, there's due diligence. This also helps us create a blueprint for the startup, which is then used for the acceleration process if you come on board.
Just in a layman's term, what does an accelerator do?
It gives you all the tools that you would need to grow fast, because when you're an individual and a founder, as a founder, and I have run a bootstrapped company and co-founded it, and that's why the incubator and accelerator was set up, because you're everything from the janitor to the CEO. You're making decisions every day from urgent to important to critical. And you need people to be able to sort of help you figure out how you can hit the next inflection point really quickly, because you will make mistakes. It's about trying to minimize those mistakes. It's about being able to bounce back from those mistakes and finding those resources that you would otherwise find hard to get to.
Okay.
And especially what happens in a space like financial technology is credibility is big, right? So banks, large companies do not want to go with newer names, and rightly so, because, this is a lot riding on the security, the data, the solutions, which is where incubators and accelerators actually bring the credibility angle. Because we have done the shortlisting, we have done the vetting, we have put the checks in place, and we're like that bridge that connects you and helps you go there faster.
What's the difference between an incubator and an accelerator?
Typically, globally, accelerators are companies which will work when you've had some level of traction and you want to hit the next thing, right? Incubators come in even earlier, so at idea stage.
Okay.
So we call ourselves an incubator because we do a lot of idea stage companies. But in the last 5 years, I'm seeing a shift where we're seeing, businesses who have raised capital, who have some traction, are still reaching out to us because they seem to have hit a plateau and, don't know how to go to the next level.
How many? And just trying to understand this, and because I've heard the same conversation I've had with a few people as we are building the startup series, is where they say that they get incubated and then they reach a point of where they don't know what to do next, or they're not able to grow to the next level. How often does that happen, and why does that happen?
Okay, so again, incubators are different, and different incubators have different programs, right? So like I can talk about the program that we're building, right? In our case, our program is a customized program.
Okay.
So when you do the shortlisting process that I explained to you, there's a blueprint that's created which helps you hit the next inflection point. We take a percentage of equity, which means that if you don't succeed, I don't make money. So that keeps us vested in your journey. So for example, someone like FundGrow, now FundGrow is a profitable startup, has already hit that scale. Now when they want to go from point wherever they are today to the next point, it's going to be say 5x or 10x. That's our goal, and which is why in the program we spent the last 3 months on teaching the founder the difference between building a product to a company to then being a company and growing a company. That mindset shift and thought process has to be inculcated by the incubator, because running and building a company and growing a company is very different from just helping the founder build a product and early market out.
But just as much as you are invested, and when I say invested in the process of growth, because obviously you want to make profit.
Of course.
How, from the entrepreneurial side, how how invested? Are they 100% invested in this process? Do you have to push them along?
Oh, every entrepreneur that I have, and I ran a business, right? We all hit a stage where we believe, is it worth it? Right? And that's where your role as an incubator is to take a hard look at the numbers and then see whether it's really worth it or not. Because at the end of the day, it's a business, right? And most founders hit this spot. It's called founder fatigue. It's not spoken about enough. We recognize it, and we have leadership coaches on our team who work with our founders to deal with founder fatigue.
What advice would you give to Indian women founders trying to raise capital globally?
Because you said globally, right? I think what we need to understand is that culturally, right, every region and country is different. When you explore global markets, they are more nuanced because they are more mature. Okay, so even in the startup ecosystem, US and China have more, startups than us. They have more incubators and accelerators than us. They have more angel investors. So we have a lot of angel investors from US who invest in our startups at the early stage. And the one question they ask most of the founders is, when are you looking to hit profitability, right? So that mindset of return on capital is very, very ingrained deeply in global markets. And a lot of times, Indian founders are not prepared with that answer, right? Where are you going to spend the money? How are you going to grow that money, right? So talking hard numbers where you can, being very sure of your plans, and no faffing around, man. Just commit in terms of what you're going to deliver, not overcommit and underdeliver.
And that's a problem.
That's a problem I see, and I think it's okay to say you don't know something.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to sort of work your way around it, it's all right. Honesty is much more appreciated than trying to weave your way out of it.
When you just said that, I was reminded of a conversation with a mental health expert I had on our podcast, and she said something like this: "It's okay to be not okay, Santosh."
Of course,
Yes.
of course. So it's okay to say I don't know.
Wonderful. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tanul, for sharing your invaluable insights and experiences. Your dedication to fostering innovation and inclusivity in the fintech serves as an inspiration to many. We look forward to seeing how Afthonia Lab continues to shape the future of India's startup ecosystem. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Between Us podcast. The producer is Santosh Kumar and the associate producer is Samyak Kamble. The Between Us podcast uploads episodes weekly, and we'll see you next time.